Hey friends, it's Laura with Laura's Handmade Haven. Welcome or welcome back. I'm so glad you joined me today. We are continuing our vintage quilt upcycling project series, and today we're going to be working on that really cool fabric tote idea that I have in mind. So we're going to be using some of our vintage quilt, and then we're also going to be using some denim for the sides and the straps. So join me over at the craft table and we'll talk through the dimensions and just the different way that we're going to make that happen. I ran across a really nice idea on how to make a simple tote bag. And for that, I'm just going to kind of walk you through what they said and how I'm modifying it. Basically, they have a lined bag. I'm not going to worry about lining my bag because I'm going to be using the serger to finish all of my seams. The pieces they have you cut out are 18 by 14. Mine are obviously a little bigger than that. And so we're just going to kind of adjust and kind of build it out. We are doing a box corner bottom bag, and you cut out a 2 by 2 inch square from that 18 by 14 segment. So instead of doing that, we are going to just use our denim to add on to the sides and the bottom, and we're going to leave that 2 inch square out on each side, and it's going to give us the same effect. So the first thing we need to do is just kind of measure this, and we have 16.5 inches, and this is another, we're going to say 13 inches. So we're going to cut both of our pieces at 13 inches wide, and obviously I'm going to make sure that this one is 13 inches wide and get straight edges for all of my pieces. So let's get these two Dresden plates cut apart, and then we will do the next step. Now to line this up, I'm going to use the scalloped edge of the quilt to get kind of a straight edge. And I'm going to go as far as I can over here just to make sure that I can have as much of this quilt as possible in the tote. And then this is the one, so I'm going to come all the way over here to the 14, and I'm going to double check this and make sure, and that is not going to work. So we're going to cut this at, 12, I believe. Let's see, how much do we have over here? We have 1.5 inches on this side, 1.5 inches on this side would be right at there, and that would give us 1.5 inches there. That actually looks pretty good. Yeah, okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have 1.5 inches, and we're going to line it up above and below. And the last thing we want to do is square up this bottom. And then we'll make sure we cut the other side to match this, because this is one side of the tote bag and this is the other. That looks pretty good. We're just going to trim off this up here just a little bit, just to make sure that's really good and straight. Now I'm going to double check just by laying these on top of one another, just to make sure that I did not mess up anywhere. And this looks good. Okay. Okay, so this is like the front and back of the bag. I just need to cut out the sides and the bottom, and we're going to do that out of the denim. Now, just because I don't want to have to finish the top edge of this bag on each side, I'm actually going to use the bottom edge of the leg and cut my pieces out. So the first thing I need to do is just measure how long these panels are, and they are right at 16 inches. Yeah. So I'm going to cut 2 4-inch strips out of my jeans. And the reason I'm doing that is because then I can sew them to both of the front and back panel of my bag, and it make a solid seam on the sides of the bag. And I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom as well, and then I can just sew across in those little corners and make my box bottom corner. All right, so here I'm at the 1 inch down here, so I'm going to cut at the 17. And then, like I said, I need 2 4-inch segments. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to get the scissors and just cut up the inside seam here. Just to kind of maximize the usage out of these denim jeans. I'm going to use the bottom part of the jean to make a straight cut because, you know, jean legs are tapered. And I could have left the seam in there. I just don't really want the seam in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I might actually luck out and have enough on both of these. Okay, there's a 1/4 inch strip. And look at this, I can get this. These were wide leg jeans, so it doesn't really surprise me that I was able to get all 8 inches out of 1/2 of the jean leg, but it's still very nice and welcome. Okay, so these are the side panels for my tote bag. And then the last thing I need is that bottom section. And now that bottom section is going to be, now right now they're saying it would have been 18 inches, but that's not how wide this is. This is 13. So now I need a 13 by 4 inch section. And I might go ahead and see if I can use this. Yeah, I can. So let's see. Let's turn this around. It will cut off some of the hem down here, but that's okay. I don't want to have to sew through that real thick seam anyway. And then here is the 4-inch mark. And then this can be used for a different project. And then 1, 2, 14. All right, and then this will be the bottom of the bag. Now, the only thing left that we have to think about are the straps. I do have some leftover denim that I used for another project. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and serge this together again and use it for my straps. And I'm not going to do a shoulder strap per se. I'm going to do 2 like hand straps. So it's going to look like this. Okay. All right, let's go to the serger and we'll get some of this stuff serged on into place, and then we will have our cute little tote bag. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is serge those handles just because it's going to be an easy, quick thing to do. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to start on one end and I'm going to fold this over. So it's just folded right against itself, and I'm just going to, and actually I'm going to cut this a little bit because that end has a seam on it and I don't really want to have to serge across that. I'm not actually cutting anything off of this fabric. I'm just serging the edges together. So I shouldn't have too much fluff. And honestly, this whole project, I'm not really cutting much off. I'm just serging the seams. Now, because denim is such a thick fabric, I'm not gonna, that's why I didn't worry about putting any interfacing or anything in this. You could go ahead and serge through the side, which I think I might do just because I think it added a little interest to the handle design. So let me go ahead and serge down the other side. All right, so this is for our handles, and we're gonna put that to the side because we're not going to actually finish these on the serger. We're going to do that on the sewing machine itself. All right, now we have our 2 sides, and then we also have our bottom. So I'm just going to grab the first panel. I'm going to line up the top and the bottom of this, and actually more importantly, the bottom. And I'm going to serge those onto the Dresden block. And again, I'm not really trimming anything off here. I'm just serging them together. If you've made tote bags before with a box corner bottom, then you know that you always cut out that little area. And basically I'm doing this so I don't have to. So I just need to make sure that I'm serging to the right side this time. I'm going to serge this side of the bag onto the other panel. Now, before I go too much further, I am going to go ahead and serge this bottom onto one of the bottoms of the Dresden Plate panel. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other side too, just before I put that other side panel in. I'm going to go ahead and serge both of the bottoms. And now, if you're confused why I cut those at 4 inches, it's because when you do these panels, these two sides for your bag, normally you do 18 by 14, and then you cut out a 2 by 2 inch square out of each corner. Well, if both of those pieces have 2 inches, then together they have 4. So that's why I cut them at 4. And that way, when I get all of these together, you're still going to see that 2 by 2 inch cut out. And that's what's going to be my boxed corner bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my last one. And again, I'm just lining it up at the bottom of my Dresden Plate panel. And I'm going to put that into my serger. And then the other end is just going to be aligned with the top of this cute little scallop border from our vintage quilt. All right, so again, I'm just going to line up this bottom edge of my side piece, and I'm going to raise my presser foot on my serger and get it started. And then the other end of this piece, I'm just going to line up with the top scalloped edge of that Dresden Plate block panel that I've cut out from the quilt. So now we do have this like little tote bag thing going on, but we have open corners. And because of the way that we cut all of this, for our boxed corners, all we have to do is take this and kind of pull it out just so we can get to it and sew across this bottom edge. So that's what we're going to do next on both sides, and then we will talk about the handles. Now, just because I'm always a little careful with things like this, I'm going to go across these corners twice. So the same thing on the other side, since we've already attached everything, and this is our 4-inch section that we would have cut out. All we have to do is line these up and stitch right across here. All right, so now when we turn this out, we have a cute little denim and quilted tote bag. And it isn't, it isn't like super sturdy. It's not going to stand on its own or anything like that. But that wasn't the intent of this project anyway. I just want a cute little fabric tote bag. If you do want it to stand on its own, then you could consider adding a liner and some interfacing in between the layers to give it a little more structure. But for what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a couple more little handles on here and we'll have our cute little finished tote. Okay, so let's talk about the handles. I want them to be able to just be kind of like a handheld handle. I don't want the straps like over my shoulder per se. I don't know, I just don't really like having to have bags as a shoulder bag all the time. So I prefer handles that are long enough that if I wanted to put it on my shoulder, I could, but short enough that I could just carry it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these serged edge straps that I made, and I did cut them at, let's see, these are cut at 30 inches each. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this down, and I am going to pin these in place. I know I'm pinning, believe it or not. I'm going to zigzag. I should have serged across these ends, but I didn't. So I'm going to zigzag that real quick. And that's just to prevent fraying. There's really no other reason that we're doing this. And then I'm just going to kind of, I'm going to go in like probably, I don't know how far is that? Let's see. I'm going to go in about 2.5 inches from each of the side seams, and that's where I'm going to pin my handle in place. I'm going to pin it all the way down to this seam. So basically what I'm going to do when I sew them into place is I will sew them across the end and then all the way up both sides. And then I'm going to turn this around and I'm kind of think about how a handle works. You have to kind of twist them, right? They get a half a twist into them. And again, about 2.5 inches in, which is right there. And pin that into place. So then that handle's done. And now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Now you could, which is probably a better idea, honestly, you could measure from the seam on the inside of the bag, about 2.5 inches from that seam. And then the same thing for the other side. And I am going to just make sure, I'm going to check that the handles are even in relation to one another as well. And that is actually pretty good. This one might need to come in a little bit. Now I am using just a white cotton thread in my upper and bobbin threads for this. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to stitch in basically a rectangle is what I'm going to do. So let me get back to a straight stitch. I'm going to start on one side of the handle. And you could back stitch here. I just use a stop stitch just because that's kind of my go-to, I guess. And I'm going to repeat that for the other 3 handles. So it's really not that difficult to attach the handles to the bag. It won't take me but a few minutes. All right, let me get some strings cut and we will reveal our cute tote. So here we have our cute little upcycled vintage quilt fabric bag. It was so easy to make, you guys. I hope you try this. Like I said, I found a very easy little tote bag pattern online and it just showed how to take 18 by 14 pieces of fabric and cut out that 2-inch square. So instead of doing that, I just added the 4 inches to each side and serged the edges on the inside. The front and the back are both the panels from that vintage Dresden quilt, and then the sides and the bottom are that denim from some jeans that didn't fit me, and so are the handles. So, and the handles are long enough that I can definitely put it over my shoulder, but I can also just carry it if I don't want to have it on my shoulder, because sometimes, you know, if you put a lot of things in these bags, they get so heavy and it's just easier to carry it by the handles than have that weighing down on your shoulder, and it's not good for your back, ladies, so please don't do that all the time. Anyway, I think that this turned out super cute. I really like it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this quick little tutorial on another idea on something to do to upcycle, recycle, and bring new life to a vintage quilt. And until next time, I hope you find joy in all you do. Carve out some time for crafting and creating. And remember, it's always better when you make stuff up.